Hello, guys. I'm Ethan Woodworth. I'm back again with another podcast episode. This is going to be episode 18, and I am joined here with an adult. This is the first time I've had an adult on the podcast, and this is one that I've grown a lot with the last year. Mr. Gadd, hello, known as Kevin.
Yes, thanks for having me. I'm honored.
Yes, you've watched a lot of them, I've heard.
I have. I've enjoyed them all, especially that one you just did recently with Duncan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a great one.
You said the 80-20 rule really hit you, and you see it all over the place.
I have, yeah. Not only in life, but in business. It's ironic. My best friend and I talk about it all the time. We don't call it the 80-20 principle. We call it rinse, repeat. But yes, I didn't know it correlated to the English language and vocabulary and writing. So
I didn't either. Duncan gave me all the insights. He's a smart cat, and
he is.
I love all the little tidbits he gave me.
Yeah.
But today, I wanted to introduce what we're going to talk about, which is the life lessons that you've derived just from your life.
I have, yes. And, I think the conversation started initially with guy rules as I was correlating these to Preston. But as I've engaged in those more and more, and even with my daughter, I thought that was kind of stereotypical or chauvinistic. And they're really humankind rules, right? Or lessons that anybody can apply.
Yeah, no, and I agree, especially even the first few, they may seem like man's rules, but my sister's in the business world right now, and I can tell you this first rule right here, she definitely follows this one.
Good for her.
So if you want to introduce the first rule, let's hit it.
Yeah, rule number one, or lesson number one, never shake anyone's hand sitting down.
And I didn't know this until I read this.
Seriously?
It makes sense now that I know it, but I didn't know it was like a thing to do that.
Yeah, first impressions are everything. Right. And I have learned, or I've experienced over my career, and I've seen it, that is very, very disrespectful. Right. I mean, unless you got a broken leg or you can't stand, that's okay. Right. But yeah, it's very disrespectful not to stand to shake somebody's hand. And I lend it back to first impressions are everything. You can't do those over. So make sure you stand when you shake somebody's hand.
And you have a lot of business meetings. I'm guessing you've seen these a lot because you're in the business world.
Yes. Predominantly sales, account management, business development. So I'm constantly meeting new people in and out of boardrooms, doing presentations. You flow in and out so irregularly, right? So I could already be in there and you're sitting down, or another group could be there that we're presenting to. But yeah, rule number one. Always stand to shake somebody's hand. And
that'll be great for me to know because I'm studying business as well. So I gotta stand up and then shake the person's hand, not just be a little wussy and shake it when in my seat. So that one's kind of simple. So we'll move on to the next one, but thank you for that one. Do not hesitate when you should act. And I was thinking on this one for a little bit. This one's hard for me because it's like, when do I act? And that urge, I never know when it's real and when it's maybe just like a fake kind of nagging pseudo action. I don't know. It's hard for me to know when to properly act.
Yeah. And I found, and this might be interesting to you, that this principle has applied to me more with regret. If I look back at things that I've regretted or things I felt like I made a mistake on, it wasn't acting fast enough. And a lot of times that's with bad news. And you delay it, or you get anxiety, you don't want to deliver it, right? And it just makes things worse. I say bad news should be the freshest. You should tell people. It's ironic this one came up. We do an annual golf trip every year. Mm-hmm. 8 guys, we've been friends forever. People come in from all over the place. We have a buddy, Isaac, who commits to it, but getting him to show up is 50-50. And you can tell that he doesn't want to disappoint. He wants to commit. He wants to do it, but he's not 100% sure. He's got some hesitation.
Yep.
Just be transparent. You don't realize the damage that you can do by just saying, guys, I'm not fully in, or guys, I can't do it.
Yeah.
Because then it puts us in a bind, right? So I look at different things that I've hesitated on when I should have acted, and a lot of it, ironically, is regret.
So maybe be more confrontational and just always approach that nagging doubt or nagging thing and take it head on is what you're saying.
Yes. I think that people and me have, I'm going back to not wanting to deliver bad news. and you hold off and you wait and you wait. And
I
you
can't.
Wait. Yeah, and it causes more damage than good, you know. But this applies in the positive too. You know, if you've made a decision and you want to go do something and you're passionate about it, jump in the pool, right? Don't hesitate. Act. You know, you got to be 100% committed or not at all. There's no waffling there. But going back to this one, I found, and as I was thinking about, you know, this morning prepping for this and looking this over, and in life, it's been more regret that I've hesitated and didn't act.
I think that's a common theme I've heard throughout all people that are on like the end of their life is I just regret not taking that action, not asking that girl out, not starting the business.
Yes.
It's always, those are the biggest life regrets on your deathbed. It's usually those.
Right. Missed opportunities. Anything. You didn't act.
For me, that hits, I'm an aspiring entrepreneur.
Right.
If you didn't know, that's kind of like my biggest dream is to own my own business. But it's like, when is the time to finally act and start the business? Is it now when I'm 18 years old? Is it 4 years from now when I have a bit more wisdom? I don't know when the proper time is to start that business. If you have any insights on that.
You know, I've been on both sides of that boat. I've hesitated and missed. I've started and bailed out of fear. And I went to a startup and we ran it from a $3 to $4 million to $76 million deal. Jumping in that pool is scary, right? It's like jumping off of a cliff.
It gives me anxiety thinking about it.
It does. But if you have the confidence, which I know you have, and you got a good plan, strategic, and it's a roadmap of here's the thing that I have to do, that going back, you have to have the confidence in it. And when you have the confidence in that plan in yourself, jump. Don't hesitate.
Yeah.
Right?
So maybe even when I'm 18 years old, still a little bit naive, I should maybe do it. Maybe jump in the pool. I'm reading
articles all the time about 16-year-old kids that are entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
I just read one the other day. I forget what the kid's doing, but a 16-year-old tech kid, I think he's in China or somewhere.
He's crushing it.
Yeah. Do you know that story?
I don't know, but I hear about these as well, and they kind of make me envious.
Yeah, the Department of Defense, I might quote this wrong, it was in Inc., and you know, get up and read the news every morning. But this kid, the National Defense System, or the United States government, is buying some technology from him to see the damage that the Russians are doing in Ukraine. And his evaluation just went to $1 billion. Wow. And I believe the kid's like 16, 17 years old.
I can link that below if I can find it on the description of this video, but that sounds awesome.
Right. So, I mean, why would you say you're too young, right? I mean, that kid's 16, 17 years old, and he's selling stuff to national defense systems.
Yeah. You're giving me, like, right now, you're already giving me kind of like this chills of like, yeah, I can do it. I have some inspiration now.
You can find inspiration every day.
Yeah.
You know?
Today it's from you, I guess. That little mini speech right there.
Unplanned.
Yeah. All right. So there's number 2. Do not hesitate when you should act is number 2. Number 3 here. Failure is quick. The ability to learn from it is forever. And I think that directly goes off of what I was just saying about my entrepreneurship dreams. I'm going to fail, and it's inevitable. And I bet you failed a lot on your own business path.
Every day, or I'm not learning.
Yep.
You know, I think there's a lesson in everything. And I've seen this in the business world. I've seen it in our personal lives. There's a genuine fear of failure out there, right?
Me?
Yeah. But I don't believe that I've ever been successful in anything without failing multiple times. Because what was the baseline to learn from, right? And I found in defeat, I've always learned more than when I won. And that's in sports, that's in anything, right? Yep. You know, I remember one day over at Lions Park, my oldest son, Carson, he was on a streak. He never struck out.
Oh, no.
It was like 7 games, and I couldn't wait for him to strike out.
Yes.
I couldn't. And why, as a dad, would I want that? I wanted him to taste it, right? Mm-hmm. And I was the first one to go over and congratulate him. He thought I was crazy, right? But all those times, those 17 hits in a row, what did you ever learn?
Yep.
But you're going to learn more from that one strikeout than those 17 hits.
Recalculate, recalibrate, and then you won't get struck out the next time.
Yeah, you're going to do better overall, I believe. But I believe there's lessons in everything.
And to me, even on like my this podcast, I would consider it a mini business. Mm-hmm. But I meditate before every single podcast, including this one, because I fear me not being able to speak, me not be able to do anything. So I sat down before this and had to meditate a little bit because I fear failure and I fear not coming on here and possibly sounding like an idiot, but that's just stupid fear. And it's that stupid nagging voice in my head that says, you can't do this. You're not good enough.
Yeah.
And I have to ignore it. And that's how I ignore it, is just kind of zoning out, meditating, focusing on the present moment.
And for me, I think I used to be motivated by failure. And I think that change for me, or that change agent, was accepting that I'm going to fail and that's okay. But to make myself better from learning from it, that really changed my perception of it. I went from that fear to that acceptance and gaining the knowledge from it. That kind of catapulted me, probably more mentally than anything else. I mean, I even see it at people my age that they're so afraid to fail, and I'm like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? I mean, we're not going to blow up this building, right? We're not going to crush this company, I mean, it's okay.
Yeah.
Make the decision, stick with it. And if it's the wrong decision, let's just learn from it.
My biggest mindset is, if I start a business, it's like, I don't have that much money on hand. And so my fear is, I put all my capital towards this new business venture, then like my however much money, $4,000, $5,000, just is gone. Nobody likes my product or service, and then I'm just left with nothing. But it doesn't matter. Even if that did happen, the worst case scenario, I'd still be 19, 18 years old with little money. That doesn't matter. You have a whole life to go to make money and to start business ventures. And you just learned a crap ton of information from that one failure.
Yes.
So that's why my failure like ideas are just stupid.
But so what I got from what you just said is you were investing in yourself, right? If you know the risk, if you say I got $4,000, and the worst case scenario is I got $0.
Yep.
But I'm still going to be an 18 or 19-year-old kid. Is it worth it to me to invest that $4 million in a life lesson, an opportunity? The opportunity that, hey, I might fail, but the value of what I could learn from it, so the next time I do this, I minimize those risks.
Yeah. And I see that now that we've like laid it out, but then I'm going to come off this podcast and those anxieties are just going to creep back up. I just have to press the gas pedal and do it.
Jump in the pool. But don't jump in the pool because of me. I don't want that responsibility.
No. I know what the right decision and answer is. I just got to do it. And these conversations help me with that.
Yeah.
There is number 3, failure is quick. The ability to learn from it is forever.
Yes.
Number 4, you want to go to that one?
Always return something borrowed better than you received it.
And this actually hits home because I'm going to borrow your son's GoPro for my summer trip.
Yeah.
And I'm going to need to return it better than I received it. And that's one that I hope I can follow through on.
Batteries charged.
Yep.
Wrapped up in the case. I know how he is. He's like me. Well, I shouldn't say that. OCD, but yeah. But, I learned this from my grandfather. My grandfather, Ulrich, he always taught me that, and he always instilled that in me. And a lot of these come from him. He would always get on me and knock me in the back of the head if I didn't stand to shake somebody's hand, right? Or if I got in line to eat something before the ladies ate. But he always instilled that in me, and I thought about it in my personal life in the different neighborhoods I lived in. You go out to a cookout, the neighbor has you over for a cookout, or there's this party or something, and you hear the people, bitching about this neighbor. Mm-hmm. Oh, he borrowed my snowblower and he brought it back, and I went to use it, and he didn't even put any gas in it. I just don't want to be that guy.
No.
I don't want to be the gossip of the neighborhood.
Yeah. That is interesting you brought up the neighbor thing, because I was reading something recently that was like, to be a noble neighbor, if you move in, you should go introduce yourself to all your neighbors and be the one that takes initiative, and that kind of makes the community a better place. It's different than this lesson, but I think that's still kind of interesting, is be a good neighbor.
Yes, absolutely. It's ironic you say that, because when we moved down to 9th Street, I did just that. I walked over and banged every door and said, hey, here's who I am, and I just moved down the street, and if you ever need anything, let me know, and nice to meet you.
You're following my rules. I've never even done that.
You're teaching me lessons here. Yeah.
that you already do.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But no, I've always thought that it's a lesson Grandpa already taught me. It's one that people don't often use because they don't think it's theirs. But I got a buddy, Steve. There's certain pieces of machinery I don't own. I don't own a wheelbarrow, and I don't own a pressure washer. I need it once a year. I could borrow it, right? Mm-hmm. But when I take that pressure washer back to Steve, it's got gas in it, and I've wiped that hose down. Or if I borrow that wheelbarrow, I'm going to spray it out so there's not mulch or dirt in it and it's clean.
Mm-hmm.
I guess because it's a value instilled by my grandfather, but I also don't want to be that guy that when the neighbors are having a cookout with the other neighbors, they're talking about me.
I like that. You treat your neighbors right, it sounds like.
Try to, yes.
I like that.
Yes.
So there you go. There's number 4. Always return something borrowed better than you received it. I'll talk about number 5 here. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use them in the same proportion. And I've talked about this here a few times. One of my favorite quotes is, talk less, listen more. Simple quote, but I derive so much meaning from that.
So I've thought about, I have not learned a lot in life when I'm speaking. But I've learned a ton in life when I'm listening. I've been in sales most of my life. And as a sales leader, when I took on that responsibility many, many years ago at Enterprise, I was, training. And one of the things I always like to do is what was called SOS. Show, observe, and shape. So if I was going on a sales call with, whether it was Ken or Brooke or Kevin Isaac or whoever, let's go in this first one. Let me show you how I do it. Then the second one, let's go in, let's observe how you did it. Then afterwards, let's talk about shaping that. What did you feel you did well, Ken? What did you feel like your weakness was? And then Ken would line that up and say, okay, here's what I thought you did really well. Let's highlight that first. But here's what I think you could improve on. And I'll never forget, Brooke was her name. She was my marketing manager at Enterprise. And she said, what can I do better? She knew what the question was going to be, right? Mm-hmm. And I said, you got 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use them in the same proportion. People think in sales, you always have to be talking. But you're never going to learn anything about the client, their needs, the obstacles, the objections, unless you're listening to them.
See, that's powerful because you're a really good communicator. And I can tell why. It's because you use that proportionately and you know what other people feel and what they want. And as a salesperson, that's vital when you're trying to gauge their interests and values because you want to learn the most about them.
It's a perception that in sales or in sales leadership that drives me nuts. People think, oh, they're outgoing, they talk a lot, they're good, they're going to be great in sales. No. If they're coachable, they're shapeable, and they're observant, they're going to be great in sales.
They just understand people.
Yes. Not because they talk a lot or they're very outgoing. Doesn't correlate actually with the results that you're looking for.
So what's been like the toughest customer that you've had to kind of ring in with this motto?
I think the toughest ones is when I assumed.
Wrongly.
I assumed incorrectly, yeah. That I heard, but I didn't dive deeper. It might be, what are the challenges at your business? And then I hear finances, but I don't know particularly what it is, what vertical underneath finances it is. And I go back and propose something that adds no value to them because although I listened, I didn't go far enough up or down that elevator.
You got to prod deeper into the nitty gritty details of what the consumer wants and needs.
Yeah, and I would say it's using assumption there, thinking that you have the knowledge, you gained the information, and then you stopped, right? And you start forming your plan, and then you're thinking, and then when you're doing that, you're not listening, or you're not asking that next probing question that you need to go a level deeper.
Yep. Yeah. I think that rings true with friends as well. And you can learn a lot about your friends and about the people around you by just asking more specific, more detailed questions that allow you to understand people better. And I don't do that enough. I kind of ask like the baseline questions. How'd the game go? What did you do well? Did you play well? I should ask more about their emotions and how they felt and how they're feeling right now.
Yeah. It's ironic that you say that, Preston, in sports or anything else. I never ask, if I wasn't at the game, I never asked, did you win or lose? How'd you make an impact? Or how'd you contribute? Or I'd ask something completely different.
This next one, I feel like you added this one knowing that I'm going to be doing this summer, and it is experience traveling alone.
Good point. I did. It brought up great memories to me, and a life lesson that I learned at that time in my life. And it goes back to, we talked a lot about failure or fear, right? I was always afraid. I was afraid to go eat lunch alone, or go do this alone, or do that alone. And it was eye-opening to me how much I enjoyed it. I've been very fortunate. At one row, I covered the entire country. I think I've been to 44 of the 50 states. I mean, I got to live in downtown New York City for 3 months. I got to live in New Orleans. The lunch markets, I would go in there from pillar to post and live in that community because I wanted to get to know that community. And that was important to me, but I always did it pretty much alone, right? And the enjoyment I got out of learning that city or that culture or meeting new people, life friends, some of them to this day, that, hey, I'm in Chicago and I was just there for a trade show and I could call Richard Harris, who I've not talked to in 5 years. And he's like, KG, you're here? Where are you at? I'll be there in 20 minutes. You get to catch up. And Richard's just somebody from Chicago I met who wasn't there with me, but it still became a great friend today. But I did add that one because of you, because the reflection on my life brought up a positive that was probably a fear at some point, but equaled a great enjoyment to me.
I like that. And I've never actually traveled alone, so this would be my first time. But that sort of like making lifelong friends even, it's kind of like an extreme, but that's a crazy impact. And I bet it's had a huge impact on your life and just seeing other cultures too.
And it goes back to, I don't know the correct term, how we are as humans. I think that, again, my opinion, when we travel in shells. So if I would travel with Preston and him and I would go on a trip to the beach this summer or something, it's going to be him and I, and we're in this shell going around doing things together. Or if it's my best friend Ken, who you and I were talking about earlier, and him and I go to, I don't know what, we do bucket list things. If we go to New York City to watch the New York City Marathon, I'm making that up, we stay in a little shell. And you get outside that shell or that comfort zone when you go there alone.
You have to adapt and evolve.
You do, yeah. And you go up and you meet people you never would have met if you were in that shell. You see places you might not have went. Also, my experience from traveling is when you travel in a group, I don't want to say this negatively, it kind of holds you back, right?
Negative and a positive. Because positive, like, you're going to have that group sense no matter where you are, so there's no fear. But on the negative end, you can't go to that dinner you want to go to, that steakhouse. You're going to be going to this Mexican place that doesn't sound near as good.
Yeah, right. It's funny, whether it's, your girlfriend or your wife or your best friend or anything, you say, let's go out to dinner tonight. Where do you want to go? And you spend so much time just, I don't know. What about this? No, what about that? Or arguing and so on and so forth. And
so this is kind of off topic, but still on topic. From what you've seen traveling in America and maybe even outside of America, do you think most people in this world are inherently good that you've met? Because I think when I'm going to travel, I feel like people just want to adventure and just be good people and talk to other people. And have you learned anything about like human nature and just how people are from traveling?
It's ironic that you asked that. I never really thought about that until you just was asking the question. I think they're genuinely good. I do.
I do too.
But I always call everybody buddy. So that's kind of my icebreaker. So we're friends automatically. But they are. I would tell you the other lesson I learned in traveling alone, and I wasn't in the back of my truck, with a bed. I was in hotels.
Yep.
But I learned very quickly, don't ask the hotel front desk where you should go eat at, because they're probably paid to direct you there. Mm-hmm. I would find out more information from my buddy who was working at the Bodega in Long Island City, New York, who was making the bagel in the morning. Hey, buddy, where do you go out at night? Where's your favorite place to eat dinner?
Yeah, he's not biased. He's just going to give you straight.
No. But he also knows you cared because you asked him.
Yeah.
Right? And he's not typically asked that question.
And that's important. I try to confide in other people more often because it just brings this level of trust a lot quicker than it would if you ask a question or get personal maybe a bit quicker than you would and just say, hey, how's your day? Weather's looking nice. Yeah. You ask maybe something a bit more personal about their opinions or what they enjoy to do.
Yeah. I know you run as well.
Yep.
So I've picked up running. It's great for me mentally and physically.
Yep.
One of the things that that I enjoyed or got to know each city that I was in was my run every day. And I'd go somewhere different, right? So if I was in New Orleans, I'm going to go run the West Banks, or I'm going to go run not on Bourbon Street, but somewhere else, right? To find the little hole in the wall, or this little oyster bar, or, oh man, this place looks cool. The live jazz there is, what have you. But the runs taught me a lot about the cities.
Yeah, so just varying your routes and not doing the same thing every day.
Garmin's amazing, right? You can't get lost with that.
No.
Yeah, so I could go all over, and I knew how far away I was.
Yeah, you have a lot nicer one than I do, but I know what you're talking about. With the GPS, you're safe.
I quit using it.
Why?
To me, running is more of mental relaxation and thinking. We talk about life lessons or failures. What would I have done different in that sales call, or preparing for this one? So I like to unplug. I used to take my iPhone and listen to music, and I unplug that. My Garmin now keeps me thinking. Okay, I'm at 9:07. I need to speed up, or it's clicking every mile. I want to unwind. I want to unwind.
That's how I was. I was unplugged at lifting weights for the first half of 2021 because I broke my AirPods.
Yeah.
So I was just in this state of awareness constantly of like nothing to touch on my wrists, nothing to put in my ears. And I was just so aware of like the workout itself and like how many seconds are in between my rest periods and how hard the set's going to be. It was a lot better. I enjoyed it more.
Good. Yeah.
I'm back on the earbud wave now, but that just kind of reminded me of it that you're not using your Garmin. All right, so there's number 6, experience traveling alone, and this one you're gonna have to explain to me, and you can intro it here right now.
It amazes me. I've had to explain it a lot, and it was kind of the theory when it was first explained to me by my grandfather, and a light bulb went off. So it's called the Eisenhower system as it relates to highways. So the best way to summarize this is if you took me right now, tied up my eyes, I couldn't see, I couldn't hear anything, you threw me in the back of your truck, and you drove me anywhere, and you dropped me off at an interstate, I could gauge relatively quickly pretty much where I was at in the United States.
Whoa.
Yes.
Without seeing...
No, I'd have to be able to see. You could I'm sorry. No. You could blindfold me, drive me 15 hours any direction. Okay?
Gotcha.
As long as you drop me off on an interstate. Okay. It's got to be an interstate.
Got it.
I would have an idea directionally in what part of the country I was at.
Okay.
And not a lot of people realize that. But now traveling is so much different. So we have iPhones, we have GPS, we know where we're going. Okay? Prior to that, the interstate system, because of Dwight Eisenhower, the way he set it up, I know on an interstate if I'm going east or I'm going west, if I'm going north or I'm going south, what part of the country I am in. And when I learned that, and I've shared that with people, even people my age that are well-traveled, like to see their expression, they're like, I never realized that. So if you have an interstate that ends in a even number, okay, you have I-10, I-20, I-30, 70. Those are going east and they're going west. Okay?
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
If you're on an interstate that ends in a 5, you're going north or you're going south. So an interstate with a 0, east, west, 5, north, south. Okay.
So then, is there like longitude and latitude with the numbers too? Or is it just... Okay.
Yeah. So 10 starts south.
Yep, that's what I said.
And the numbers go north. So you think of I-90 that goes up through Chicago and through, I don't know, Iowa, whatever. North, I-10, down south in Florida. 70, somewhere around here. Now you think of the interstates that go north and south. You got 65 here. We got 75 over in Dayton, Ohio. You got 85 that goes up to the Carolinas. You got 95 that goes up to the eastern seaboard. If you go west...
Decreases.
It decreases. So if I know that I'm on I-55 and I-70, I'm somewhere over by St. Louis. If I'm on I-95 and I-10, I'm somewhere up in the northeast.
Yeah.
And if I was dropped off there, the first thing I would do is start running. So if I'm running, if you dropped me off, took off the blindfold and released me from this crazy idea, if I start running, I could tell if the mile markers are going up or down. So if you're on a 75 or an 85 that goes north and south, as you go north, the numbers decrease.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm on I-75 in Georgia and I'm at exit 225 and the numbers are going down, I'm going north, and that's how many miles I have to Tennessee. If I'm on 70 or one that goes east and west, the miles go down as you go west.
That was an awesome explanation. I feel enlightened.
I didn't know how I was going to explain it, actually, other than the idea of you could blindfold me, take me 15 hours, and I'll have somewhat of an idea where I'm going.
At first, I thought you might have like an internal compass, and you could just like feel it somehow. And I was like, get out of here.
No.
But that is extremely helpful, actually. Like, I did not know that.
It amazes me that 95% of the people I share that with did not know that either. And it doesn't matter if you're 18 or if you're 60.
Yeah.
They had no idea.
I feel like a new man. That's going to help me a lot. Just like at least knowing something new, and maybe I can be the one that tells other people about that. Eisenhower Highway System explained here by Mr. Gadd. That was great.
Yeah, I don't know if it was a great explanation.
It was.
But again, it amazes me that majority of people don't realize that exists or correlates, that these numbers have correlation to where you're at geographically and what direction you're going.
Yeah, I would have said they were just random, arbitrary numbers. All right, you going to move on to number 8? Do you want to say this one?
Don't pay for something you can do yourself.
And I was thinking of this one. My dad's a super handy guy. He helped me build the truck out with my setup. And when I work with him, it just makes me realize I don't know shit about power tools and about doing things for yourself.
Really? But at least you recognize that.
I do.
Right?
I recognize it. Yeah. He embarrasses me.
Well, I don't think that's the intent. But the fact that you recognized it, then hopefully you're curious.
I am. I really am.
And you want to know how to be self-sufficient and do those things.
Yeah.
It's funny. Press and I were doing some landscaping this morning, and he said that, because I've said that to him many times in life. He goes, let's knock this out. He goes, we shouldn't pay somebody to come landscape it when we can do it ourselves. Mm-hmm. But, to me, it's twofold. This is another lesson from Grandpa Ori, who taught me that at an early age and made me curious and to learn the different things. But the curiosity is where you can learn and you can evolve, right? And that's whether it's handy or being able to do this, or, hey, I want to do something and let me figure out how to do it. And the tools and resources today to do that through YouTube are limitless. I mean, I give you an example. A window motor went out, and I took it in the shop, and they said it's like $300, but I was already Googling the part, and it's like $28.
Yeah.
Right? So wait a second. You're going to pay $20 for the part, but I'm going to pay these guys $270 to do it. YouTube, and let me go. Let's figure this thing out. It's actually rewarding. It is,
right? Yeah. When you do it on your own, teach yourself.
Yes. Teach yourself how to be. Or not to be, but to do those things.
Yeah. My biggest example was people were studying for the SATs.
Yeah.
And a lot of people paid like $500-$600 for this class.
Okay.
But I just bought a $15 book on Amazon, ordered it to my house, and did like self-studying. But it was the same thing that other people were doing. I just did it on my own and set my own study schedule.
Right.
And it was self-sufficient. It's not the same thing as like power tools and learning how to craft stuff, but it's kind of a similar idea.
Now, you take you for an example who did that, or the person who paid $500 for this. Who do you think felt more rewarded?
That's one of my biggest feelings of reward ever.
Yeah.
That's not exaggeration.
No, and that's a great example to what we're talking about here at number 9. Mm-hmm. The ability to feel rewarded by teaching yourself something, being curious. And sometimes there's also failure in that. We go back to don't be afraid to fail, right? And learn from it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely one of my biggest feats, and just any of those sort of self-teaching moments. And that's why I'm a curious cat, and I like learning, and I like philosophy and history, and I just want to learn everything there is to learn, because I love it, and it just makes me understand life a bit more.
And, I think it's not just about the money factor. It's about people should be more curious. Put more tools in their tool belt.
Just want to learn. Be versatile.
Right. Yeah.
Because you think about it this way, decades ago and our great ancestors, the ones who succeeded the most were the ones that could evolve and adapt the most. And those same people were the ones with the most wisdom and the most lessons and being able to do the most, whether it was kill animals, trap animals, be able to cook them the best, be able to weave blankets.
Yeah. And ironically, they were a lot more resilient than we are today.
Mm-hmm.
You know, think about that.
Didn't cry over a social media post and get their feelings hurt.
They didn't have time. They were out hunting their own food and building fire and making huts. But no, they weren't crying over social media posts, buddy.
It's a different ballgame nowadays.
It was, yes. But if you think about it, that you go back to those ages, and I never thought about it until we started having this conversation, how much more resilient they were than us.
Facing all sorts of illnesses and making their own remedies. And
yeah.
It's powerful. I love thinking about old history and just ancient people, but they thought the same way and they had the same tools we have. We just don't use them because we're not in the same situation. Yeah. We're blessed, though. We're blessed.
We are, yes.
To have vaccines and all this other sort of stuff. Want to move to the last one here?
Yes. Lesson number 10, you can't buy time, enjoy it. So this is going back to my buddy and I, Ken. I shared with you earlier. We have conversations every day after work. We've done it for probably 20 years. Just habit of ours, right? On his way home, he's calling me. And we talk about everything. But one of the things that him and I have talked about, and he's been very, very successful, very blessed, and I am so proud of him. The one thing that we've talked about a lot recently is, especially him, he could buy anything he wants. But the one thing you can't buy is time, and to value it. And it's been really engaging for me to see him as not only a husband, but a parent and a very successful entrepreneur, business owner, recognize that. Live more in the moment, so to speak. And we've talked about, people so worried about things in the past. Or we find, and this is just our opinion, we're obviously not doctors or psychiatrists or anything else.
Yeah.
People are so worried about things in their past, or they're occupied with anxiety about what the future holds, that they never really live or enjoy that moment and that peace of the current state. Does that make sense?
No, that makes complete sense. And my best moments are when I'm completely absorbed in the moment.
Yeah.
And that's, again, I talk about meditation a lot on here, but that's kind of what I find with meditation is I'm completely present. And all I learn is I'm here right now. I know what my body feels like. I'm not worrying about yesterday. I'm not worrying about 2 weeks from now, 2 years from now.
Yeah.
That's why I love it so much.
Yeah.
And I feel that a lot. And the present moment, I try to yearn for that feeling of just living all day, every day. I can't get there all the time, but when I do, it's my favorite time of the day.
Yeah, but I think it's important that you recognize it. And we talked about these life lessons, and some of them are newer to me. Some of them are older. The freshest one is the engagement of this conversation with Ken and I about recognizing that, and that we're not there. We're so worried about things from the past, or so anxious about things in the future that we're never really present.
I'm not either.
Yeah, so that's probably the freshest one to me over the last few years. And you talked about earlier social media and post. I don't do any of that at all. No. And I look at it as people being in a moment, but not focused on it. More focused of, let me get a picture and see how many likes I get, which is anxiety towards the future, right? Mm-hmm. Or maybe some concerns about the past because they didn't get these likes or whatever. And not just people on social media, this isn't about social media, but even me who's not on it. If I sat down and I broke down my thoughts, what am I consumed with most of the day? And I wrote those out on a sheet of paper, 80-90% of it was either concerns or anxious. I'm either thinking about the future or something about the past. But it was never right here.
Mm-hmm. And again, there's kind of a silver lining there, because the reason why humans are so successful with our feats is because we're the only animals that can truly plan for the future and truly harvest our resources to make sure that we can sustain and live long and all that sort of stuff, which is a good thing. We have to be able to prepare for the future. On the same time, yeah, I do kind of want to live in the present more, rid some of those anxieties about the future. And I don't know how to really get to that state, but that's kind of what I'm searching for. And it seems like you're in the same boat. We want that present state a bit more, and we want to live there longer.
You do. It's and I didn't realize that what you just said about humans. It is something that it's a work in progress, right? And I think to start a work in progress, you got to recognize a gap. And just in that conversation, just Ken, best friends talking about this is a gap, and how do I make that better? Mm-hmm. We went on a tangent about social media. I mean, that was off subject, right? But it's really everything. Just being present and being in there. And then, it was a philosophy of Ken and I saying, the one thing you can't buy is time. You want more of it, but what are we spending our time doing? Worried, anxious, not in it.
Yep. And that's again why sometimes I'm with people and we're in big groups and it feels like half the time we're discussing what other people are doing and what other people are thinking, or what this person is doing and why their actions, or why are they dating this person. It's like, why can't we just focus on here and now, talk to each other about real topics, get to know each other better? And sometimes it just kind of, and I'm guilty of this too. It's not just other people I know, but I need to kind of focus on the bigger topics, the bigger ideas, and just live now.
Yeah. There was a great example of this. I believe it was from the PGA Championship that just happened maybe a couple weeks ago. And there's a picture that Michelob Ultra found. And it was Tiger Woods, and I believe he's in the rough, and the crowd's gathered around him. And they're showing Tiger hitting out of the rough. And it was closed captioned. It was not closed captioned, but it was an actual still shot. And you got 100 people behind Tiger, okay? And they're all on their phones taking a picture, right? They're not in that moment. They're thinking about, I can share this with somebody else, but not being right there. And there's one guy behind Tiger with a Michelob Ultra in awe, like watching Tiger hit this shot. And me as a golfer, I'm probably thinking he's thinking about his impact and the flight trajectory and what the outcome is going to be. And you can just see in his face, he's just so caught up in the moment. So Michelob Ultra found this guy and is doing a whole campaign.
That's so cool.
About living in the moment. And he is going to be their spokesperson. I don't think that he's going to be the actual spokesperson, but he did a name, image, likeness, and they're going to do a campaign around that. I thought that was really, really cool.
That is cool. Yeah. Especially at like one of these big companies. You don't see that very often, that a company would take advantage of that sort of marketing.
Yeah.
I feel like they'd want the cell phones and all the glimmer and jazz of social media, but I like that.
Yeah. I thought that was pretty cool. And as we go through these, going back to 10, that's something I'm working on personally to improve on. Spend more time in that moment.
There you go. You're cognizant of it. You know what to do to get to where you want to be and bridge that gap, as you put it. This is just super helpful to me because I need like these discussions, because I need like stimulating, hard interconnection conversations like this to really feel satisfied. And this is why I love this podcast a lot, is because we just connected for an hour or so, I bet, on these various 10 topics. And it was great, man. Like, I learned a lot from this, and this is living in the moment, no doubt.
Yeah. Well, the other thing also for me is what I was able to learn. And we go back to some of these about you learn something new every day. Don't be afraid to fail, right? Learn from it. Mm-hmm. And this wasn't a failure by any means. I didn't want to use that as an example.
Yeah.
But I also have takeaways from this, mm-hmm. right? Okay. You want to live in the moment? Try meditation. I never would have thought of that.
Yeah. There, boom. We have a lot of things. I learned about the Eisenhower highway system. I'm more equipped to attack the world.
Yeah,
now.
Well, you might want to Google that one, because I didn't actually write the manual for it, but that's the way I kind of observed it.
No, it definitely makes sense. It definitely was correctly explained. So I think the viewers will like that one.
Yes. So if you get lost, know if you're going north or south or east or west.
Plop you anywhere, you got it. Mr. Gadd's got it.
Yes.
Got it. We can wrap this up since we covered all 10 of them. Do you have anything else you want to talk about? Any suggestions? We covered a lot.
No, just that honored to be a guest here. I've really enjoyed getting to know you this past year. Would be a positive for me, and I've enjoyed listening to these podcasts.
Thank you so much. That's the biggest compliment I can receive for this sort of venture. And I know you're a big viewer, so I just want to thank you for that. And thank you for being a good friend. I would call you a friend.
Yeah. Hopefully you don't lose any viewers after this one.
This old man doesn't know anything about anything.
What does he think got this 50-year-old guy on here for?
He's a geezer. He doesn't know shit.
Yeah.
No, seriously though, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, my pleasure.
The second Gadd member on the family.
Yes.
You guys mean a lot to me.
You mean a lot to us too, bud.
Yeah. This is Stoic Sapling Podcast. I'm Ethan Woodworth. We'll catch you guys on the next one. See you later.